Welcome to lecture 21. In this lecture we will discuss the basic concepts of planning and development, and with this lecture we will start the section on the development management. In last lecture we concluded the essential components of the urban governance, and we have seen that the discussions in the first 4 weeks were centered around the concepts of the urbanization, basic urban governance, legislative and constitutional framework, and the improvement of the organizational performance, leadership, team building, etc., etc. And after that we have told you that a governance is always not effective if a governance cannot rightly or effectively manage the development or give the right direction of the development and implement the development within time for the people. So, it is also important to know what are the planning and development agenda of an city or urban areas and how to do it. So, today we will start that discussion with the basic concepts and few terminologies, so that throughout the whole discussion you can understand the other lectures. So, today our coverage will be basically the concepts of sustainable development at the global level and also human development, what we understand, what are the basic indicators, the distinct meaning of policy, planning and development, significance of development management, multi-level planning and essential concepts in urban and regional planning. So, I hope that you have heard the term sustainable development. Now, I am giving one definition of the sustainable development, which is taken from the World Commission on Environment and Development 1987. Please read the definition, it is not a very big definition. So, development that meets the needs for the present without compromising the ability of future generation to meet their own needs. So, therefore, whatever we do in our cities to make roads, to essential infrastructure, we should not do that development in such a way so that it hampers the development of the future. So, a development which takes care of the implications of the next generation, another few decades, that is called the sustainable development. The basic intent of the sustainable development is that since the resource is limited for the urban areas and otherwise also, therefore, utilizing that resource for the common good, for the service or the development has to be very much careful and crucial, so that we do not consume each and every resource at the cost of our future generation, at the cost of our children's, so that they do not suffer out of the resource or lack of resources. So, that is the message in this definition of the sustainable development. And the development, the classical concept of the development was that from a natural setting to a man-made intervention or a man-made scenario where we create new infrastructure, that is called development. Now, the sustainable development and its definition is much more relevant in our context, and we should follow that. Now, globally we have 17 different goals of sustainable development, which each and every country they are following. So, let us just mention few goals. One is poverty. So, eliminating the poverty, the zero hunger, that is the food protection, good health and well-being, quality education, gender equality, clean water and sanitation, affordable and clean energy, decent work and economic growth, industry and job generation and the related infrastructure and reduced inequality, sustainable cities and the communities, responsible consumption of the production, climate action to address the climate change, life below the water, that is in the sea water or the river water and any other water, life on land, and peace and justice and partnership for goals. Now, if you follow, if you see this whole 17 goals, you will find that many goals are related with the job of the urban local government, which we have discussed. For example, poverty, education, inequalities, water and sanitation, the economic growth, the infrastructure, the community development, etc., land, everything. So, this is not an isolated goals. Definitely there are some macro level larger goals which cannot be achieved fully through the local government. Definitely the central and the state government and other parastatal and other international agencies has the stake on there, but definitely local government, they have also role in working in fulfilling the agenda of the sustainable development. Then human development is also another very important terminology which is used for the human development in the world. So, it has two dimensions. One is the direct dimension, which directly influences their development, which is basically indirect, or which actually influence the improvement of the direct criteria. For example, long and healthy life, knowledge and experience, decent standard of living, including the house, shelter, is factors which is directly influences the human development, whereas the participation in political and community life, environmental sustainability, human security and rights, gender equality, these are the few rights and few conditions which enables them directly or indirectly to achieve the long and healthy life, the education, knowledge and the shelter. So, if you see very clearly, the direct parameters or direct indicators are basically health, education and shelter. So, a good system of health, education and shelter can provide a direct influence on the human development in every area. Next, I just discussed what is the difference between planning versus development. Planning is basically the intention and roadmap for future, whereas development is taking action to fulfill the future plan. So, therefore, it is the intent and it is the action. So, basically if you remember one word, it is the intent and it is action. Second is that planning is, the development is always followed by the planning exercise. So, planning exercise comes first, development comes second. Then so, therefore, it is the what component, what we want to do, and it is the how and when component. Even though it is related, and we in a better planning framework, we also determine the how and when component, but this is a broadly distinction between the planning and development, so that we can understand. Then policy versus planning. Policy is basically few broad direction which is applicable across all regions and which is by and large non-spatial, mostly economic and social, because so therefore, it is the broad direction or the guideline which is applicable across all region of country, whereas planning is basically specific intent for developing region or city for future. So, it is the broad direction of the guidelines which is the policy, and but in the planning is a basically specific intent, and not only intent, it is also a prescription prescriptions, and in most of the cases it is also spatial and non-spatial as well, and it is also unique to some geographical area. So, therefore, you can see that policy is basically broad, which is applicable for all regions of the country, whereas the planning is a very specific prescription for any particular region and the city or village. So, planning is specific, planning is spatial, non-spatial both, and policy is very general guideline, general direction which gives the direction, and policy is also streamlined by act, rules, regulations and also programs. For example, we have a policy for housing for all in India, and it is streamlined by the Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana, the Indira Awas Yojana and all those programs, and not only that, it is also streamlined by the acts, rules, regulation like Land Acquisition Act, the Real Estate Act. So much acts, rules and regulations are there. Now, act is basically the mother legal document created by the central and the state government, whereas rules are created under any particular act which gives the procedures of the implementation of the act, and regulations give the further details of the technicalities and the applicability of the act for a particular region or cities or particular application area. So, you can see that policy is followed by the acts, rules, regulation, programs, etc., and then the specific plan document is prepared for a particular city and particular areas. So, I hope that this difference is clear to you, so that you can understand the further discussion. So, what is the significance of development management then? Basically, development management is basically, since we have discussed development, the planning is done first, followed by the development. So, if planning is done and development is not done, so there is no point of doing the planning or doing the policy and everything. So, the key, so development is basically taking action. You will find in many planning and development authority there are fantastic planning documents which is kept in the almirahs or the desk or in the offices, but which has never seen the light of sun and it has never been implemented. In 80s, when the first National Commission on Urbanization was created, the chairperson Charles Correa, the renowned architect who told that all the sterile reports, because the planning reports were never implemented on ground. Therefore, the planning reports, irrespective of its quality and the sanctity, it is never fulfilled if it is not developed, if it is not implemented or the particular action taken. Therefore, development is the key word in our case, and how to manage the development so that we can fulfill the project on time on the given intent. That is the development management and the significance of the term. So, therefore, we will see one by one how this term is important. Next, we see that multi-level planning framework. Even though we showed earlier this picture, still I just recall this picture once again. In this picture you are seeing the levels of governance, the statutory institution for plan approval, the name of the plan, the period of planning. So, here basically there were two tiers, one is central government, second is the state government, and third is the local government. Whereas, the district and metropolitan, these are basically regions, districts and the metropolitan areas, they are working under the state government umbrella, whereas the village and panchayat and wards, these are working under block and municipal umbrella. And the name of the plan is basically district plan, metropolitan development plan and plan, these are basically regional plan. We can call it sometimes perspective plan, vision plan, it can be 5 years or more, whereas the block and municipal level draft development plan, these are basically city level plan, which is done for 5 years followed by the annual plan for 1 year. Now, this structure is called multi-level planning framework, which is also the finance commission at central level and the state level, they streamline the funding. Now, in this multi-level planning framework, it is the regional plan and the city level plan, which now we will focus more details to understand that how a regional plan and the city level plans are done and how what are the key words related to that. So, we will see some essential concepts of regional planning first, then we will see the some concepts of the urban planning. So, there are few theories, even though it is not the typical lectures on the planning theory, I would not I will discuss in details, but you should know the terminologies at least. The sector theory basically says that in economics there are 3 sectors, one is primary, secondary and tertiary. We mentioned this in the earlier discussion also during urban governance. So, primary is basically agriculture and fishery, secondary is the manufacturing and trade, manufacturing and industry, tertiary is the business. So, the sector theory says that from primary, secondary to tertiary, it is the gradual progression of the development and it is inevitable to happen. Next is the stage theory. The stage theory says that every development happens in particular stages. I will show those stages, development in stages. Then the export base model, here it is told that any areas which is also subject to the export from outside area, that is also influencing their development and the growth. Theory of industrial location says how an industry is located in a region. Then central place theory says the centrality of settlement. Then growth fold theory says about development around a node or pole. Then cumulative causation theory is saying that how a cumulative effect also works in a regional planning. So, one by one let us see the. So, in the sector theory, as I told that there are 3 sector, primary, secondary and tertiary, and also there are another classification based on the ownership. It can be private sector, private, public and voluntary sector. So, around these 3 sectors the development revolves, that is the basic essence. In the stage theory by Rostow, there are several stages like traditional society based on the basically the agricultural and political power, preconditions for takeoff, then takeoff stage, drive to maturity and the age of high mass consumption. So, these are the terminologies this particular person he has used to identify various stages of the development, and every stages there are some additions in terms of the development and the growth. Industrial location and the spatial development by Van Thunen in 1800s plus. Now, here he says that location depends on the value of the commodity of the market. Here he is saying that if this is a town, the all the industrial areas are located around the towns like the dairy farming, horticulture, pulses or firewoods. So, it has a kind of a centrality also in the location. Then this particular theory was improved by Alfred Weber by giving few more concepts. I am not going into much details. Export based model basically emphasize on exogenous factors, that is the how a region, if this is a region, it has 2 factors, one is exogenous which is basically coming from the outside, and the endogenous that is from inside. Now, how a region interacts with the exogenous agencies or the organization or the settlement in terms of exchanging the goods, that is the main principle of this model. Then central place theory, it is given by the one of the very renowned person called Chrysler. He is saying that every settlement is born and growth in a centralistic manner, and it has a concept of centrality like this, and threshold and range. Please see the circles. The smaller circle is the threshold. Threshold is defined by which that the area, the minimum area which can accommodate few people and which can justify or which can make one particular goods or economic production justifiable or break even or it can sustain. And the range is the range, that is the maximum range in terms of distance or the extent of the development which can also take the advantage of that particular goods of the economic product. So, this concept is given by the central place theory by Chrysler. You can see the graphical representation of the central place theory. So, in this theory these are the main settlements, settlement 1, settlement 2, and it has other settlements surrounding, and every settlement has their own catchment area which is given as range and the threshold. Then growth fold theory, in this growth fold theory by Paradox, he is saying that the growth fold is it is nothing but the development is organizing around a pole. Pole is nothing but a major settlement. In India, most of the bigger cities has grown around the pole, around this it is a classic example for typical settlement, and we can see how it is growing like this. So, growth fold theory basically also applicable for our context. Then cumulative causation theory by Gunnar Myrdal. Then in this theory it is says that the theory of backwash effect of the international trades and cumulative causation theory of economics. So, here it is told that a particular economic activity have some kind of forward and the backward effect, as a whole, as a cumulative function, it can generate a substantial job or substantial development potential which causes a growth in a region. That is the main essence of this theory. Then we will also like to discuss few urban planning theory at the city level. So, at the regional level, all the theories are basically either centered around some centrality or the core or the poles, and if the multiple poles are there, it can act as a corridor. So, all those theories are there. Definitely we will show all these theories and the some of the examples later, but today now it is important to see some urban planning theory. So, we have 3 theories to show today: the concentric zone theory, sector model, and multiple nuclei theory. All these 3 theories, they describes how a city grows, but it is not a very new theory. The sector theory says that the central business district, which is the basically the epicenter of all business and trade, it is in center, and surrounding that business this central business district, there are transportation and industrial sector, which is this one. You can see low class residential, middle class residential and high class residential, which is segregated and surrounded along different axes and in a circular fashion around this CBD. So, in this model few cities also were developed. Next is the concentric zone model. In this, so I am sorry, I think this is the picture is replaced by the, but I describe the concentric zone model. In this model it is said that the CBD is in the center, and there are few others. The development takes around the center in a concentric fashion. So, do not follow this, it is basically the basically sector theory model, whereas the concentric model revolves around the central, keeping the CBD in the central around in a radial fashion. And there is another theory called multiple nuclei. In this theory, in this model, there are multiple nodes, like this could be one node like CBD, there could be few other nodes like this one or this one, these are other nodes of development, and other development like residential and the institutional, they have grown around this in pockets. So, this is another model. Now, in this model also various cities in India and other countries have grown so far. So, this is also another very important model in our urban planning theory. Now, I would like to show that what kind of spatial plans or maps are there, so that you can understand that what kind of spatial plans or maps are made in a urban planning or regional planning exercise. I told you that planning is a very specific prescription for a geographical area, which is distinctly different from the policy and the acts. So, there are the few plans and maps. First is the Mouja map and the cadastral map. Mouja map and the cadastral map is the basically the original land database at government department, and they have one set of maps which is called Mouja map and a cadastral map. Satellite image is basically derived from the satellites. The basic difference between Mouja map and the satellite image is that the Mouja map and the cadastral map gives the description of the ownership, and satellite map gives the details of the features, mostly those are land cover feature. So, these are distinctly different two types of sets of map. Second is survey plan. Apart from this the Mouja map and the satellite image, there could be survey plans which will give the exact dimensions and features. There could be specialized contour or topography map. In India we call it topo sheet. So, topo sheet is basically is also kind of a survey maps, a survey plan. It is available at Survey of India and it gives the basic information of the contour and the topography. Then land cover map, the land cover map is also done using the topography, survey plan, satellite image etc. So, land cover map is very important and land cover map basically leads to the base map of any city or region. Then land use map, land use map is the map of the future land use which we intend to do, and land utilization of plot layout map is another map which gives much detailed of the details of the map map in a smaller region or smaller areas. Base map, I have told that all this will lead to create a base map. So, objective of creating base map of a city or a region is that base map will give all essential existing features of that area or the region, that is the objective of the base map. Apart from that, there could be some thematic or utility map, for example, demographic map, for example, the educational infrastructure map, road network map, police station map, etc., etc. So, these are the some indicative essential planning plans or maps which we deal in any development management or planning exercise for, and after that we use this map to implement the projects and the development. Then few examples I show. This is the classic example of a Mauja map. So, every government, every state government and the local government, they have the Mauja map in your area, you can see. Then this is another example of the this is a typical topo map. This is a satellite image showing the satellite information. Then I show few examples of thematic plans and maps. In our institute studios we did some exercise. This is a typical urban extent map of city of Raipur. You can see that how it is explained using the development area till 75, then thereafter how using different colors it is shown, and through this map you can understand that what is the development extent so far till now and what is the vacant area which you can develop for the future. Next I show, this is the base map of the same city, showing the base map showing the basic network and the river. Basically it is not a full base map, it is showing the basic network and the river. It is the population density map. The population density, as we discussed earlier, is the number of population in unit area. The population density maps gives you idea that which area is most densely and which area needs very critical intervention in terms of the traffic management or in terms of the infrastructure provision, and which areas are sparsely dense or the low density which can be further strengthened or re-densified. Those kind of analysis can be done through density map. The literacy map, you can see literacy map gives you idea that the level of literacy across all the wards in the municipality, and so that you can give some kind of action plan for literacy ward wise. So, this kind of plans are very much useful for not only planning, also for the day to day urban management. This is a typical land use map of and the master plan. So, this is the intent of the future development, it is for Raipur city. You can see that how the authority has made few maps, I mean few land use prescription, you can see the color codes. So, this color codes we discussed earlier also, like yellow is for residential, green is for recreational, then purple is for industry and so on, and blue is for commercial. Then you can see this economic system, the working percentage, that the dependency, like that is how many what percentage of people are working and not working. This kind of map will give you direction of the actions related to economic activity. Then primary water supply sources. So, this is a thematic map based on the urban infrastructure. So, this source will give you idea to plan the water supply systems. Then sanitation condition, again this will give you some idea to plan the sanitation. In this map you can see that the wards which is having the individual toilets or community toilet or no toilet. So, this kind of plan is required to plan sanitation, and those municipalities who are working under Swachh Bharat mission, they also can prepare this kind of maps. List of public toilets, this plan will give you the served area and non-served area in your urban, in your city. This is a sewerage system map. So, sewerage system map, you can see that how the sewerage system is covered, like the plants, where are the plants, where are the sanitation system, like that. The location of the treatment plant, treatment plants, some treatment plants are away from the city, some plants are within the city. So, this will give you an idea to design the network. Solid waste management. So, solid waste management also give you idea and will help you to make Swachh Bharat plan action and all those kind of activities. You can see it is mentioned door to door, community dustbins, no dustbins. So, this will give you some kind of coverage, give you some idea of the coverage and the non coverage area. Then location of this is education wise plans. This is how we can show the education, and sometimes we also try to show the catchment area like this, that how much area a education institution is serving, and we can similarly identify the served area and unserved area. Similarly, location of the private school. So, this private school and the other school can be merged together and can be analyzed for the served area. Then commercial banks. So, this will also give some idea about the centrality of the commercial activity, and this is example of plot layout plan. So, this plan is basically at the area level, giving details of each and every plot, like residential plots, plots for school education, plots for commercial areas, playground, water bodies, local and collector roads. So, at the city level, so these are at the plot level. Okay, fine. So, at the city level we have shown various thematic maps could be there, like land cover, land use, infrastructure and so many things. The ultimate objective of this mapping is to make several layers and merge all those layers, so that we can identify the suitability of the land parcel, where the areas have little better infrastructure or the potentiality for bringing new infrastructure, so that you can bring new population or the new development. That is the importance of this mapping exercise, and so that area could be shown in the future land use map, so that the prescription could be there, that yes, this area is the future residential areas with such and such density and such extent of the mix and other parameters there. And plot layout plans, as I have shown, it is the final prescription of the plots, which is usually done after the city planning mapping and its related exercise, and it is done area by area. In some of the places it is done as a plot layout plan or local area plan or area development scheme. So, this regional planning and city planning and area level planning, these three stages of planning will come in the next few lectures, so that you can understand the example how regional planning is done, how city plans are done, and how local area level plans are done. So, with this I would like to conclude today's lecture. Today we basically we discussed essential concepts of the planning and the development. We started with the concept of the sustainable development and human development. We have seen that globally we are following 17 sustainable development goal or SDG, and then we have discussed the distinctive difference between the policy and planning. Policy is basically a broad guidelines which is mostly non-spatial. Planning is very specific to a region and a city or village, and which is spatial and non-spatial both. Planning is basically intent of the development, which is prescription and the roadmap for the development, and development is the actual action which is taken following the plan in a particular area or zone or a land. And development, without the development the planning becomes futile and planning becomes sterile and planning becomes ineffective. So, therefore, development is essential, planning is not sufficient. Therefore, development management is a very significant or the very important area which we should discuss. And after that we discussed various aspects of planning and development, especially for regional planning and urban planning. We discussed several, just mentioned few theories just to be aware about the theory, and in future if possible when you are going to develop or plan your cities, you can cross check or you can see that whether some theories are applied or not. And then we have just introduce some sets of maps, so that you can understand that what kinds of maps and plans are used as a tool to make the plan for a city. For example, the land use map, the land cover map, Mauja map, satellite map, thematic maps, and not only that we showed some set of thematic maps and the satellite maps, so that you can get some idea that how the maps look like and what kind of color codes will be there. So, next lecture we will discuss the regional planning with some case study also. So, thank you very much for attending this lecture.